So what is more autocratic?
There's nothing more than that.
You're the original wolf warrior. And now we're talking about Ukraine and everything like that. We've had so many discussions about this. All right, you start and then I'm going to finish.
Start. Well, it's a very complicated situation, obviously.
Oh, no, really? I can't believe it.
1997, when NATO started its eastward expansion, I guess compressing what Russia considered to be its breathing space.
Yeah, but there had been guarantees.
There have been guarantees given orally. Unfortunately, they didn't
so we shouldn't. Oh, if I say something orally, you know,
Mr. Lawyer, like you said, everything should be put down black and white.
But this is serious. People really have to understand that Howard Baker, all right, who was the Secretary of State, said categorically that the EU and that NATO would never expand into the previous Soviet bloc.
Well, we also had American Secretaries of State who takes a little bottle of powder, of laundry powder, and say this is weapons of mass destruction from Iraq.
Oh, I'm shocked. You mean a country for, quote, security reasons will go in and invade another country? And if that country is the U.S. and it's Afghanistan or
Syria,
if it's, Iraq, or
Libya.
How about South America, way back in the 70s? That's right.
They were Grenada and
Bay of Pigs. I remember that.
Yeah.
Grenada, yes, that was a nice practice run. But I mean, there seems to be a tremendous amount of hypocrisy there, and that's what I'm getting at. And I agree with you. It started in '97 with the expansion, but you know what strikes me is 1991. You have Putin going and speaking in German, not Russian, German, all right, in Germany, in Berlin, addressing everybody. He said, look, we want to be part of the European home.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
And then 6 years later, 1997, he gets up at the Munich Security Council conference and says, you've cheated us, you've humiliated us, you've expanded, I mean, you've done everything. We are now dedicated to undoing the world order under the United States and its allies in the EU.
You don't push a major country that is very proud to the corner of the room and say, okay, jump.
Putin is a tough character. He certainly loves his country, but he also has a tremendous amount of nostalgia. He really likes the idea that he would like to reclaim
Warsaw.
Well, the USSR, basically,
right.
to do this. And how does China see that in terms of preventing that?
There are those in the Western press today, and probably governments as well, talking about China is providing support for Russia.
But what does that mean?
Buying Russian gas and oil. And my answer is the Germans, all of Europe. 40%.
Have you noticed that they have not gotten rid of, they have not put that last big tranche of conditions on Russia? Why? Because they can't replace the oil.
That's
gas.
right, the gas.
So,
and even worse than that, all this talk about sanctions in terms of the SWIFT system, there are, I think, 230 banks, Russian banks, that's part of the SWIFT system. Oh, sanctions on 5 of them.
Actually, it's up to 12 now.
It's up to 12?
Yes.
When is it going to hit 230?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, we're laughing about it, but it's really serious. I mean, most people don't know this. The SWIFT system, when it was created, was a way in which you could settle things. It was an international protocol, secure, bank-to-bank, how you send money back
Not
and
a political weapon.
And it was promised at the time.
That's
the
right.
U.S. said, we will never use this for political purposes.
That's right. Never politicize it.
And then,
well, they made a lot of promises. Americans have made a lot of promises.
But that's the nature of what we're talking about. If I want to lead the world, do I lead by doing the things that I say you shouldn't do, or do I lead by example? But let's go back to the Ukraine situation. I mean, my understanding is in the 1990s, in the space of less than 7 years, they lost 60% of their GDP.
That's right.
Corruption was rife. Then you had a series of, quote, elected leaders, each probably worse than the others, but still elected, right?
That's right.
And then you get the guy who's more towards Russia than
That's
the U.S.
what you get.
And then they have a putsch. He's thrown out.
That's right. That's what you get when you have so-called Western democracy.
Is it Western democracy, or are we talking just pure, what I call the post-hypocritical world, that if the government, if you like the government, it doesn't matter what they are. They can be a dictatorship, they can be a monarchy, they can be a democracy or some form thereof. That's fine. It's just like that conference where they pulled the like-minded people together under Biden,
it's not,
and he didn't invite Democratic countries. He just invited the countries he can deal with.
It's more than a question of a country you like or not. It's one whether or not you can control and you can manipulate, you can manage. That's the situation now.
In the international press right now, everyone is trying to link Taiwan
to Ukraine.
I don't know why. They're different countries, different settings, different relations with the U.S., etc. Isn't this just more of this let's tar China? I mean, can you imagine? You and I are neighbors, right? And you start out rich and I start out poor, right? And then over the years, you don't take care of your house. I'm working hard. I make my house beautiful and better. So then you come over and you say to me, I don't like that. You don't do it the way I do it, okay? And then after constantly criticizing you day by day by day, all right, you come to me and say, hey, let's do something nice for the neighborhood. You and I together. You know, climate change. You need to stop Russia in its tracks because we criticize you every day for genocide, for suppression of people, for being a horrible nation, for being an autocracy. But as soon as we have a problem, you know, you need to do something about that.
It's even worse than that. It's laying the groundwork for the next round. And the next round is going to be focused on China. I think beating up Russia is one thing, but if Russia is weakened through this conflict, the next one to target is, of course, China.
So you're saying that for China, they have to cling to Russia as a fellow country that is under pressure
from the U.S. Threat. No, I don't think so. I think in China's case, there are several strategic considerations. Number one is Chinese need for energy. Number two is Russia is part of the Eurasian landmass that is very much of what Belt and Road and the Eurasian growth story that China would like to.
But isn't there a certain amount of trust that goes that way? How are these? Because there's been some ups and downs.
There's been many up and downs. 1969, and even certain Russians talking about nuking China. You know, Khrushchev and so on.
And there's always been this fear that the Chinese will start walking across the border. And
that's right. One has to make a strategic assessment of the situation. And the strategic assessment of China is that Putin is unlikely to bow down to America.
Never. But isn't that his weakness?
That's his
like
weakness.
Our pride won't let us give up our hegemonic power. His is a sense that he doesn't give up this nostalgia for.
Russia is 2% of the global GDP.
Half the size of California's.
2% of the global GDP. That's one part. So he may have 1,500 strategic nuclear missiles and weapons.
But let's look in North Korea. And we have nukes. Where let's fire off a couple of ballistic missiles.
On Seoul, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but haven't we in the United States, in essence, created the monsters that we confront?
The more you push, the more you're pushing them to the brink.
I mean literally created. I mean Noriega. Who did he work for? All right, Saddam Hussein.
CIA.
Who did he work for?
That's right.
You know, we used to support
the Afghans.
Well, that's another. That's a long conversation.
That's a 20-year conversation. Well, actually 30 years if you go back to the Russian time. But I think for the Chinese side,
the Ayatollah, he was
Khomeini.
Actually.
He was in Paris.
In Paris, been supported by us because we were holding him out as kind of to the Shah. He says,
balancing
him.
Yeah. I think in the Chinese case,
Philippines.
Marcos. Now his son is running. His son might win. I think in terms of strategically, the Chinese situation with Russia is that ultimately the Chinese know very well that in their bones the Russians consider themselves Europeans. They look toward that.
Well, no, that 91 speech said we're looking forward to a European home.
So it's very important for China to have at least some coordination of global positioning on the US side.
Okay, so this is one of the tropes that I hear all the time. China has a master plan to supplant the US and impose its system on the entire world.
5,000 years of recorded history. Aside from Genghis Khan and his son marching throughout Europe, but they
he wasn't Chinese, by the way.
Yeah, then he came back. Actually, left a lot of babies, but you know. Aside from that, China built the Great Wall to keep foreigners out. Has never attempted to go out anywhere.
But you can then go the other way and say, hey, look, China's, it's fortress China. China's going back. I mean, there's all these calls. The U.S. won't sell China chips. And then if China develops them, you're being isolationist.
That's right.
How dare you?
That's right. This
Do
is
what
all
is necessary
hypocrisy.
to keep your economy going.
It's all hypocrisy. It's just like, for example, ASML. The latest on that. ASML is the cutting machines for the chips.
Oh yeah,
the Dutch company.
The Dutch company.
The
Yes.
Dutch company.
Yeah.
And they were willing to sell, old, 3 generations old equipment to the Chinese. All of a sudden they decided, we better sell more modern stuff. Why? Because Chinese companies are developing their own cutters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not allowed to. I mean, the U.S. has stepped in and said that it'd be a violation, and we'll use
IP.
Yeah, no, it's not a violation. They have the IP.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Dutch company.
Yeah.
But we're asserting jurisdiction simply because we buy their stuff.
That's right.
And we control the banks.
That's right.
So is this about right or is this about might? Are we just simply imposing
It's all about
this?
everything
So,
with the
but
U.S.
how
is
can-
about
how-
might. I see it happening already with a lot of countries. You take a look at the Middle Eastern countries. Why are they coming close to China?
Well, because China buys oil. That's
No,
market.
that China buys their oil. U.S. used to buy their oil and gas. What happened? U.S. is now competing. U.S. is telling China, don't buy from the Middle East, buy from us.
Yeah.
Screw you,
Yeah,
I mean,
but when we talk about autocracies, the assumption is that might is right?
Yeah.
You control things by just having the whip hand. And yet, when we actually are doing anything,
Yeah.
invading countries, telling people
everything
what
the
they can
U.S.
do,
has done
it
over
seems
the...
kind of autocratic, doesn't it?
It's all a question of how big your fist is, right?